morning, grandmother. So we're ready to get ready? Okay.
Good morning, Poopsie, honey, wash day, my baby. Henry, hurry. One second, I'll be right here. Shinnecock Nation is a small tribe. On the reservation, 500 people or so. And we're surrounded by the wealthy folks who are living on our land. As Native people, you feel a responsibility to your ancestral territory, to protect the land as much as we can. It's nearly impossible in this day and age, but we're still going to do the best we can.
We're a maritime community. People are coming here with large amounts of money. The conflict now is over development.
More often than not, I hardly recognize this place I call home.
In the last 10 years, we've lost right-of-ways to the bay.
This property was transferred from the town without the town board understanding this agreement.
You watch what happens with all this preserved land. They're going to be encroaching on it. They're going to be putting driveways through it. That guy down there changed that place into his Hamptons. And you took our Hamptons.
But I don't feel so alone today. I feel what the farmers are feeling. I feel what the people are feeling. And we're going to do something about this. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful today. Little blue jay. No, that's a woodpecker. What is that? These are mostly clamshells. We are at Conscience Point. This is where our Shinnecock ancestors met the first Europeans, pilgrims. Some people say, well, my family's been here for 4, 5, 6 generations. Well, we've been here 400 generations plus. As far as land was, it was just a total different way of thinking. Like to own your land, we're just caretakers. I love this spot because it is beautiful and it is preserved land over there, but it's a good place to commune with the ancestors and let them know how much we honor and respect and care for them and try to be good people and think about them. For at least the last century, the Hamptons has been a spot for the wealthy to get away from the hustle and bustle. They can drive their limousines right past this indigenous community and not even know that we exist.
We're a small community. We're finite in this greater community of the Hamptons. The land base that we have here is approximately 1,200 acres. This is a small piece of our original territory. Our original territory extended from the East Hampton town line all the way to the Brookhaven town line. One of the first things that we did as a people in 1640, when the first settlers arrived, is we gave them 8 square miles of land to use, which is now current-day Southampton Village. And we've paid the price for it ever since. Here we sit, in the middle of lifestyles of the rich and famous, and yet 60% of our people in our community are below the poverty level. That's a problem.
Modell's shopping stores. That's Modell's house. It's funny, the people that live out here. You see this house right here? House on an acre? That's $8 million right there. That huge house back there, I sold to a 29-year-old 10 years ago for $15 million. The owner of the Coach just built that house. He paid $25 million for the land. Right there. And a farmer sold it that owned it for hundreds of years. It's a crazy place. Almost everybody who's successful financially in New York, they want to be here. So when you have a lot of people chasing not that much property, it just keeps going up. But there's something about it out here that they all want to come. I just happened to enter real estate in 1996, and I call it the best 20 years in real estate in 10,000 years. We were selling $18 million houses in 06 and 07 to hedge fund managers like they were candy. Being a finance guy, I like to turn things quickly. I call it the velocity of money. The big complaint out here is overdevelopment. And I agree with them. But people are going to continue to want homes and buy homes. Doesn't the next generation deserve the house, pool, and tennis in the Hamptons? I mean, that's how I see it.
This is a very unique area. Besides having a population of close to 60,000, that's a year-round population. In the summer months, it quadruples. And it's very culturally diverse and economically diverse. We have some of the wealthiest people on the planet, heads of multinational corporations, the 1% of the 1%ers. Then we also have very modest people who work 2 or 3 jobs to deal with the high costs of living here. So the disparity between rich and poor is probably no greater anywhere else than right here in the town of Southampton. And of course that makes things complicated because you have to serve and protect all people.
1700s. I grew up in a farming fishing community. You know, it's still a gorgeous place, don't get me wrong, but it's pretty much been bought up. Years ago, that would have been stuffed with scallops for weeks. It's called spudnik grass. It's kind of the only thing that every scallop larvae has to hide in these days. It's heavy. With all the toxins that are going into the bays, it makes it really difficult. You know, God knows what goes into these bays. In the morning, you see them spray vector spraying for mosquito control. Feel like, juvenile fish eat mosquito larvae. You know, that's how the whole cycle works. A lot of the locals back in the day didn't really want to build on the water. That's why land next to the water was so cheap, because there was too many mosquitoes. You get eaten alive. You know, and now as everything is kind of changing ecologically, there's no mosquitoes. Well, that's why there's no juvenile fish kind of making their way back up into the marshes and stuff like that. The shinnycocks are the only ones that have respectably kept it, you know, undeveloped. You know, if you look at the bay around where the reservation is, it's gorgeous. And then everywhere else has been built up on. So, I mean, for me, it has basically destroyed my livelihood, the development on the bay.
All right, see you guys later. We're going to go over to where the fish usually show up in the early season. What I do catch, I eat myself. I also give it to people for free of charge up here on the reservation. I do the same thing with hunting. You know, I shoot a couple deer, I shoot a few ducks. I give them away to people here on the reservation. People like it. You know, my dad taught me that. One of our traditional ways at the end of a prayer or at the end of a ceremony, we say Wame Natampiog, which means all of my relations. And when you're saying all of my relations, you're acknowledging the connection, not just between your immediate family, but you're acknowledging the connection you have to everything, all of creation. And that what you do with one thing affects the other thing. There's actually different kinds of fish than there were when I was a kid. And I was out there right in front of Calvin Klein's house, actually, and I pulled up a sand shark, and the boat right next to me pulled up a sand shark, too. And he was like, I've never seen a sand shark in Hetty Creek. I was like, me either. Our reservation's a peninsula, and on the east side is Hetty Creek, and half of Hetty Creek, and just in 2015, got shut down for shellfish. And that's just because of runoff from all the houses, the golf course, things like that. For the most part, what you see in all of the Hamptons are assets. You know, they don't actually really live there for the most part. In the summertime, they come out here to vacation, but for the most part, they're assets. If they were there year-round, there'd be a lot more pollution that is detrimental to our health here and economy on Shinnecock. You know, so our biggest thing is that we have to continue to protect our front line.
We're not doing good here. Hunting and fishing to near extinction of everything. It happens so fast. There's barely any more scallops left. We had a tribal oyster hatchery for a while, but that closed down, unfortunately. So there's no tribal shellfish business like they do on the outside. We're just back to sustenance living. You know, go out, get some clams, some mussels, scallops for our own supper. Fish to eat, you know, for the week or so.
Absolutely, unequivocally see a correlation between the overdevelopment and especially our waterways. We are people of the shore. Our livelihood over the course of time has been derived from the waters. We as whalers basically established the economy out here in selling whale oil for the street lamps and things like that.
We have to live here together, and it's not getting any better, it's getting worse. The groundwater pollution, the contamination of the pesticides, because your lawn has to be spotless and bright green and unnatural, and the chemicals, everything that's polluting this earth, and we're drinking it, and people are dying of cancer left and right. Can't you see? It's got to stop.
Right here will be the tennis court. In the back is the pool, and this house will sell for about $10 million. But I'm confident it'll sell in the next 90 days. Do you speak English?
A little, yes.
I need that shut off for 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
While we do something. Thanks, bud. As you see, it's like so wide open. This has changed with our clients who are now in their 30s and 40s, and they want more modern and very open. So people pay for that, and there's no woods. People don't really love the woods. They want openness. But, you know, you'll drive up the street and you'll see 4 of my houses in a farm field. And that gets people crazy. So how do I defend myself against that? You know, I didn't buy the farm and cut it up and sell it. You know, the farmer did.
Bronze fennel, looks like forage in there. These are all perennial herbs. Cardoon over there, edible violas, nasturtiums. We do a lot of edible flowers. People discovered kale. Now we have about 6 or 8 different types of kale.
Yeah, this is a real working farm, as you can tell. As the landscape has changed, we've had to evolve. And it's constant. Nettles, $12.99 a pound. The family farm has been here since the 1600s, and we are the 11th generation. We were growing up in a very sweet provincial little town, and there was so much land. I mean, It's really amazing what's happened in a short amount of time with the waters being polluted and the overbuilding.
You know, even in the past 10, 15 years, a lot of acreage that we used to rent from family members, now that's all gone and developed. It's a lot easier to sell an acre of land for, $500,000 than it is to, struggle and work, 50, 60 hours a week.
Since 1640, there were all these different disputes about land, people challenging whether their land was theirs, whether they had the right to graze there. The town of Southampton approached the tribe and said, okay, this is how we're going to try to resolve this. We will give to the tribe a lease for 1,000 years. And that includes the lands for where we live now, Shinnecock Neck, the Shinnecock Hills. We were able to hold this lease, and then the tribe would sublease to farmers and other people and still be able to use our own land. That's how we were able to get a lot of our basic needs met.
We were given a lease for 3,000 plus acres. That was whittled away until 1859. 1859, the robber barons, the railroad people, wanted to build the railroad line from Manhattan out to Montauk. And in blatant disregard for the Non-Intercourse Act, which said that no state, no town, no village, no farmer could take land from an Indian or an Indian tribe without an act of Congress. Well, New York State, they had 20 signatures supposedly giving the land to the state. Well, 10 of those signatures were people that were dead. They had gone and got names off of headstones. The other 10 were not Shinnecock. This is what they put before the judge. They got the land. And our people from that next day when we found out about it proceeded to fight for it. But we as Indian people were not considered citizens, so they would not allow us to take this into court. This land was stolen from us, flat out, no questions, hands down, stolen. Now what sits on the acreage is some of the most prestigious golf courses in the world. You have a national golf course, you have a brand new one, Sabonic Golf Course, you have Shinnecock Hills, which will be hosting the U.S. Open, and you have a multitude of multi-million-dollar homes that sit in what was once our sacred Shinnecock Hills.
Property under video surveillance. This is the Shinnecock Hills Golf Course. This is a sacred place to us, and it was a long time ago, and it still is. We can come here, but still we're on the outside. We're not allowed in here. We're not allowed any access to our sacred sites. They use our name for whatever they want. Their logo is a native chief with a headdress on. It's the in-your-face kind of, boldness. We know we have still to this day ancestors buried in this golf course, buried with respect and ceremony and love and honor. Shinnecock men were hired to help construct the golf course. Stories handed down to us say that they witnessed hundreds and hundreds of their ancestors' bones being desecrated during this construction and couldn't do anything about it. And to host the U.S. Golf Open here, it's just a slap in the face.
What are you guys doing?
We're making a documentary.
Okay, well,
we're not trespassing you. This is none of your business right now, so goodbye. Goodbye. No, it isn't. This is public property. Goodbye. And I'm a Shinnecock Indian, so leave us alone. Goodbye. I don't care who you are either. We're on public property. Leave us alone. Leave us alone. Please. Are you kidding me? Sure, go right ahead. Well, I'm not even on the golf course. I'm on the daggone shoulder of the road, and this guy is harassing me. Well, that's how the Parish Pond fight started. We were on the shoulder of the road having our peaceful protest, and the New York State Police showed up with a chip on their shoulder. Someone told them that there was a bunch of Indians on the side of the road protesting the desecration of the land. We were well within our rights where we were standing. This is the Parish Pond development, 62 acres of beautiful, pristine land with some of the last of the marine plant life. Heathland, they call it. It's gone. It's now someone's lawn. It's gone forever. We are protecting our sovereign territory. About our land. Where's that not one more acre sign? You read that? I hope everybody here can read, because that's what we're here for. Not one more acre. Not one more acre. State police were just hollering and cursing at us. One in particular, after the bulldozers fired up their engines, he came from behind with all his might and pushed me into the middle of the road. We know that bones were dug up here and construction workers were instructed to put them in the dumpster.
When we ride through the Shinnecock Hills, and you see what we consider the destruction of our land, you hear about the Sioux and their famed, Black Hills. Our Shinnecock Hills here held the same meaning, the same historic value that any of these other tribes around the country have held with their land. We've had several digs up in the hills there that have traced our lineage in this area back over 10,000 years.
Our ancestors would bury people on the hilltops. The villages that we would live on would be on the east side where the sun rises, and then the burials would be all facing west. And so the sunset can bring them into the spirit world.
Everybody. Did you guys have a good Memorial Day weekend? Ruthie and we have a special guest here with us today. Our town supervisor, Jay Schneiderman, is here.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to serve as your supervisor. The town is in great shape. We continue to work really hard on protecting drinking water and surface waters and open space, keeping taxes low, which I know is important. We have the U.S. Open coming. And, the big USGA golf tournament, that is coming next week. It brings a lot of money to the economy, and that's a good thing.
My question's about taxes.
Sure.
Taxes have really become a problem. Are you concerned about that?
So I realize a lot of you pay property taxes, and property values are going up in general. And I know most of you are on fixed incomes. The high cost of land complicates a lot of things out here, and it acts as a filter. So a lot of people who may be third, fourth, fifth generation kind of grew up out here. They see the cost of living go up, but their property values are going through the roof. Their taxes are going higher and higher. They end up selling those houses, and then that house will become probably a second home. And somebody will have to service that second home to take care of the landscaping or fix the boiler or mow the lawn. That person probably isn't going to be able to live in the community. So a lot more workers are commuting in from further and further away. And you see that in the mornings between, say, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock. The traffic eastbound is unbelievable. So we're creating a demand for labor that can't live in this community.
Southampton town officials say the most horrifying violations they found at the Bel Air Cove Motel. Town code officers this week issued 215 code violations against 28 landlords. Officials say they found 17 people living in this 4-bedroom house.
A lot of people are struggling. If a 3-bedroom house costs you, I don't know, $3,000 a month, and you're only making, $15 an hour, and they're only letting you work 25 hours a week because they don't want to, give you insurance. We have people that don't have places to live that are sleeping out in the woods or making little shacks for themselves to live because they're poor and they're homeless. People hear that. They're like, oh, you're in the Hamptons. What are you talking about? Are you kidding me? You're in the Hamptons.
It's a kind of classic town gown in the Hamptons. The professional middle class is so far from the elite, and there's such an antagonism towards the elite. You could feel that on a visceral level. On the other hand, the whole economy is based on this elite. And so it's really hard not to kind of continue to market and cater to this elite at the same time that you resent them. I think the Hamptons represents a historical microcosm of the class struggle here in the United States and in many cases around the world, because it begins when Native Americans who had lived here on the land have that land taken away from them. And the only thing left is really for them to become the initial working class here in the Hamptons.
Did you have fun on the playground? Did you go to the playground or to the beach?
To the park.
Okay. One child sleeps on that couch, 2 sleep on this couch, I sleep on that bed. And when another grandson comes over, he sleeps like right here. He'll put the pillows down and sleep here. And then Nasha and her daughter sleep in one bedroom, and my mother sleeps in that bedroom. So we have to take care of each other. The housing situation doesn't get any better around here. And, the oppression runs deep.
Every member of the Shinnecock Nation is a member of the town of Southampton. And so they're entitled to everything that any town resident would have. They certainly vote. They get permits to park on the beaches. They use all town facilities. There are tremendous things that members of the nation can take advantage of without paying any property taxes. But we do, have high-value properties that pay high taxes, that provide services, youth services, transportation services, park services, roads. In the Shinnecock Nation, they benefit from all those things. The same things that I can take advantage of, and, I pay property taxes.
We're obviously in very strong fiscal position. We're improving our roads. We're fixing drainage problems. We're addressing infrastructure. We're improving our parks that everybody enjoys. What happens when you do that? People want to live in a community like that.
What we've done is tremendous for the town. 400 homes we've built, and the average tax bill's got to be $30,000 on my homes. It's really helped keep up with the ever-growing budget. The town needs the development to keep going. They'll never say that, but what would they do without it?
The Hamptons as a place of paradise and respite was something that, Walt Whitman wrote about and inspired a whole generation of artists to leave New York to go out. It became a place that symbolized nature. It symbolized this authenticity. As the bohemian, pioneers do in all forms of gentrification, the artists brought out the very rich people who saw this place for its natural beauty, but also as a place that they could put their mark on it. Very wealthy people from New York City went out and built these huge summer cottages, and it became kind of the place for the rich and famous to go. On the one hand, celebrating its naturalness, but also bringing in electric lights and bringing in the golf clubs and bringing in all the different trappings of their New York high society.
Hi, welcome back to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Jay Schneiderman, and we are talking about the U.S. Open, the 118th U.S. Open. You have been here for 2 years planning this event.
We've been in the community for a while, but now it's real.
Well, we certainly like having you guys here. We try at the town level to be as accommodating as we can, and we recognize over $100 million in economic flow into the community.
Despite the bumper-to-bumper traffic,
And the hassle of getting to one of golf's premier tournaments played right here at Shinnecock Hills Golf Course in Southampton. It's estimated about 30,000 spectators will attend the week-long event, helping business boom in the area, including here at Melrose Pizza, where pies are flying out the door. And they are certainly happy to get a piece of the U.S. Open pie.
You guys sat right at the table with us in that last meeting, and I feel personally that you misled us. So, as far as I'm concerned, you could have mentioned that then and said, well, we really have no need for overflow parking when Sachem Williams said to you all the people coming from the east could be parked on the res. You never mentioned that you had already established parking east. So, you can sit here and, try to spin it because that's what you do as a media person, but we still have to answer to the people. And the people right now didn't even want us to continue any negotiations. That was the sentiment in the meeting Wednesday.
Hey, Phil, hinge and hold, baby. Yeah, baby.
Don't even continue the negotiations. Like, let's just go out there and protest.
Hi, Rebecca.
We'll be here calling from at least 8 to 5 every day. Yeah. He said if we need anything, just let him know. Oh, we need our land back.
They're sitting on one of the most valuable pieces of land in the country. And they could generate income from that land. Like, they could all be millionaires, literally. But they can't seem to get behind any one idea and stick with it for very long. I don't know what's the right economic development direction for the Shinnecocks. It's really up to them. But they have opportunities to, the town is not standing in their way.
It's the multi-million-dollar question. Where will the Shinnecock Indians want to build their casino now that they've cleared a big hurdle in gaining federal recognition as a tribe?
There was a tribe in Connecticut that owned one of the largest casinos in the country. They excelled. They went by us like we were standing still. And in terms of creating economic development, when we started the gaming, there was a lot of hope in our community. As soon as we did that, we became public enemy number one.
I've been living here 43 years. I have no desire to have that around here.
The island's narrow. We have traffic problems as it is.
Certainly, revenues from a casino can be quite high, but the community does not want to see a gambling facility out on the East End. A lot of people had concerns about the traffic and the problems that are sometimes associated with gaming.
It's going to cause traffic. Have you been out there on 27 lately to understand the traffic out there? We didn't create that. You did. We were going to start a small facility. We weren't going to go into the big billion-dollar facilities or anything like that. We went through that whole year, and it was really a nightmare. The developer backed away. The whole thing just fell apart. Literally, it fell apart. While we were good neighbors, everything was okay. As long as you Indians stay up on the reservation and in your place, we're fine having you here.
I'm not really sure what else the town can do for members of the nation, but I think that they can improve their economic situation in a lot of ways. And I'd love to work with the tribal council moving an idea forward as long as it's one that is really supports the community. It's not going to be a problem for the community.
The Hamptons itself has become a brand. It's become a commodity. And one of the things that's buttressed the image of the Hamptons as the land of the rich and famous is the marketing to the rich and famous. That makes it even harder for people who are struggling. That makes it even harder for the people who are in the back room doing the dishes, or the people who are serving and being ignored, or the people who are cleaning the streets, or the people who are in places like the Shinnecock Reservation, where you essentially have whatever cultural capital having quote-unquote real Indians gives to a location, but without any knowledge of the history, struggle, and what those different locations actually mean.
We've seen more Porsches and Mercedes.
Hi, how you doing?
All right, and you?
So I saw the signs and I wanted to see what was going on. So there are remains that are just...
Our ancestors are still buried there.
What do you think should be done for them to right a wrong? What do you think?
Really? Give us our land back.
Yeah, you want the whole force back.
It would be nice if we got our
That would be nice. I don't think that actually
They can start with the reconstruction of the graves so that they don't play golf on the graves of our ancestors.
And it needs the acknowledgement to Shinnecock, the people, not Shinnecock, the golf course.
No, I know. I was really curious because I know there's millions and millions of dollars being made. Like, how can you write, or how would you want the right to,
I just told you.
Yeah, to get back the land.
told you.
Right, they probably will.
So why is it fair to continue on committing this crime of stolen property? Just because you stole it 100 and so years ago doesn't mean the crime goes away. You take our land, you desecrate our graves, you play golf, you make gazillions of dollars. What is just and fair about that? Nothing. You got to start from square one.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm with you.
Okay, thank you.
Have the logo on your shirt.
Yeah, that's the real logo, not that fake Shinnecock Open logo. My grandmother was one of the matriarchs of our community. She was born in 1889. I think one of the things that she instilled in us, I had two uncles. They caddied. They used to caddy right over here at Shinnecock Hills. And every day that we rode on that golf course, she would say to us, "Little man, this is your land. This is our land. And you have to get this back for us. It's going to be your generation that does it." The land battle has been ongoing. From 1978, we started this battle, this fight for recognition and land. In the last 15 years, we finally had enough funding to really fight it in court.
So it was 2005 that we first officially filed our land claim.
They're claiming laches, and what laches says that, well, you waited too long. You didn't fight for it. And we're like, are you kidding?
And the equitable doctrine of laches. You can't disrupt the expectation of current landowners. And because the Court of Appeals just dismissed our claims, we weren't able to delve into the facts of the case. So I put together a petition for a writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court for our land claim. It's kind of the last way to really exhaust your claim through the system. But the Supreme Court decided not to review our claim. You know, in that sense, it's still alive. If it was an unfavorable decision, that would really have ended our claim. But they didn't. And because of that, we still have ways that we can bring our claims.
We have a saying We have to preserve our way of life for the next 7 generations. What that means is that we have to understand who we are. We have to understand our history. We have to be able to tell that to our children. There was a famous quote, "To save the man, you must kill the Indian." Meaning, not literally kill the person, but you have to kill the Indian spirit inside of them. You have to kill their way of life and turn them into a civilized person. It was actually illegal in the United States and Canada for Native Americans to practice our cultures, for us to hold ceremonies, for us to wear our traditional regalia. They would say that we couldn't have been worshiping God because we weren't Christian, so we must have been worshiping the devil. We were forced to assimilate to the colonized world due to what I call institutionalized colonialism. A lot of our culture was lost. A lot of our history was lost.
There used to be a stockade downtown, and our people used to be put in that stockade if we were caught speaking our language.
The Hamptons has its own sense of its own history, and who gets to tell that history? There are 2 ways that people who kind of come to an area and conquer and settle an area try to both imprint their own identity on it and then naturalize it in a way as if they've always been there. The first way is to establish the aesthetic of their lives. They build buildings that look like the buildings that they're used to. So you bring with you and you build what you know. But eventually you need to suggest that this always was. You start to look at the history and who gets to tell the history. And where do you start your history? You start to look at how things are named. You start to create a kind of historical sense that this has always been your place. You are of this place. And so if we're really going to have an accurate picture of history, whose voices aren't being portrayed in this and what do they add to the story?
The Southampton Town Board has made massive efforts to protect their colonial sites and their colonial cemeteries, their colonial old houses, but they don't make an effort to help us preserve our Native American sensitive sacred sites. They don't see it as the same.
The acquisition of lands of Romeo and Shinnecock Hills.
We have been before you many, many times and always have said the same thing. The goal is to preserve the 13 acres. Good afternoon. I am Rebecca Jr. and this is Nasha, my granddaughter. We're from the Shinnecock Indian Nation. I believe the town of Southampton needs a reminder that life did not begin in 1640 when the Pilgrims arrived on our shores from Europe. Native people lived on this land in harmony with nature for thousands and thousands of years before your arrival.
Public hearing number 5, to consider the acquisition of lands of Parish Pond.
The source of funding would be the Community Preservation Fund.
Those lots were historically sensitive, and what they're planning to do to preserve it, does anybody know?
Today we're talking about preservation, primarily land preservation and the Community Preservation Fund.
When property transfers, the buyer pays 2% of the purchase price into a dedicated fund.
This 2% tax has been generating quite a bit of money.
In the town of Southampton alone, the fund has generated